Hey, it's your financial maven, Samantha Mittman-Besnoff, CPA. And for the last 30 years, yes, 30 years in the accounting world, I absolutely love sharing my insights and passion about money for individuals, entrepreneurs, and small business owners. Knowing your money and hopefully feeling less stressed about your money is what I call being financially empowered. Welcome to the Your Financial Maven podcast. Welcome to the latest episode of Your Financial Maven. I am very excited today. My guest is a personal finance expert and entrepreneur, Dr. Renée Baker, who absolutely loves to bridge the gap, the journey of finance growth, authentic storytelling as it comes to personal finance and working with you in your small business. Renée is founder and CEO of the RBI Group, where she merges passion with practical experience. You have nearly 3 decades in the financial services sector, almost as much as I do. It's kind of wild. Renée has championed strategic initiatives aimed at enhancing representation and facilitating business growth. And I believe you're still teaching as an adjunct professor at the University of South Florida, where you do impart knowledge on advertising management and digital media strategies. And I know that you're very involved in community advocacy, mentoring, and philanthropy, as well as sitting on several boards. So, Renée, welcome to Your Financial Maven. Glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here, especially just having a conversation about a topic that we both enjoy and love.
Yeah, really. And one of the things, in doing my research and reading up is the financial literacy. The idea that we need to be more impactful with that. And while it may or may not be taught in schools, whether K through 12 or colleges, we're finding, as I'm sure you know, that it's not being talked about. Money is not being talked about, and it should be. It's very important not to be a taboo.
100%. And having those conversations around money and changing the conversation on our mind that's around money is so crucial. And I'm actually happy that we are talking about it more, but I still will say that we're not talking about it enough.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that enough doesn't have to be all the particulars or the accounting of it, right? What's a debit? What's a credit? But understanding our money because it's important. And so I'm going to ask you, what is money?
I love this question because, I never thought about what is money and what does it mean to me. But as I think about your question now, I'm thinking about money to me is a tool. And it's something that allows us to create opportunities. It allows us to gain access. And more importantly, at least in my experience, and I think this could relate to everyone, it gives us the ability to live the life that we desire. And while I think that money is always the end goal for everyone, it does give us the opportunity to empower ourselves to make better choices, make different choices. And what's been important to me is that money is an opportunity to leave a legacy. And the more that we understand its purpose beyond the numbers and as a way that we can live a full life, help others pursue our passion and be unapologetic about that, I think that's helpful. Because when I think about money now, I don't look at it as just being a way to build wealth. To me, it's about freedom, impact, and possibility.
Yeah, and I think that's important. We grew up in a time where talking about money, you just didn't do that. I mean, you observed, you probably watched family, how things were with money, but nobody ever really talked about it. And the shame, right? There is no shame in talking about it. Someone may have more or less than you, but that shouldn't matter. It's not necessarily about the amount of money. It's talking about the things that money can bring you and help you with.
Right. I agree with that. And changing our mindset around it, similarly to what you share, we didn't have a conversation around money. But what I did know is that money didn't grow on trees.
Unlike my mother, bless my mother's heart. I love her. She's only child, spoiled rotten. She's great. But yeah, we used to joke with her that she thought money grew on trees. So she doesn't think that way anymore. But yeah, it does not grow on trees.
Or doesn't grow on trees, allegedly. So I thought that was so funny. That was the most consistent conversation we had on money. I love my parents and they have a very different thought about it today than they did when I was younger. But I guess I had expectations that were beyond where we were. And they would say, I don't know what you think, but money doesn't grow on trees.
Although I don't know if that would stand nowadays because it's all digital. So I don't even know. What would you say nowadays? Money doesn't grow in trees. Well, no, duh, Mom. It's digital. Like,
It's all digital now. But
right.
yeah, so I think that was the extent of the conversations that we had about money. And that's very different than the conversations that I had with my children around money. We didn't talk about whether it grew on trees. We talked about the impact, how we can solve for those issues, our mindset around it, and ways to be able to use it as a tool to build a life we desire.
Yeah. And I think that's important. We talked about the financial literacy and that talking about it. And the things that I did with my kids as they were growing up, and I still have conversations with them. My husband and I are looking into doing some investments and other things, and we're including our kids in that conversation in the sense of getting them to understand why we're doing what we're doing. Because my older son, when he was heading off to college, he asked, how'd you understand loans and the fact that you pay principal and interest and how much to take out? And do you have good credit scores? And we're like, well, we didn't. Trial by fire. We just had to figure it out. And the fact that he's comfortable enough to ask us that question, I think that's an important thing as it comes to financial literacy and not just personal finance, right? I think as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, we have to understand that as well so that we can grow our business. And I know as a way to have the key to sustainable business growth, on some levels, you talk about some financial foundations. Are there any particular foundations that apply, even if it's just to both personal and small business owners, that kind of helps you grow your business or grow your mindset as it comes to finances and money? Anything in particular, any steps like what you talk to your clients about?
Yeah, so I think that this is important conversation around the mindset of money. I've had conversations with clients. I work a lot with financial advisors, but I also have my own individual clients. And what I talk to them about is first, just understand their mindset. It is absolutely shocking how many people, whether they're very successful, high income earners, so much of their money mindset is grounded in the foundational elements on how they were raised and how they were brought up.
And it's very true. Yeah, very true.
And the way that shows up and how it manifests in their conversation and relationship with money is shocking. So I always like to start with the foundation of what is your money mindset? You ask me, what is money to you? And if you could take the idea of money and make it real, what does that look like? Is it something that's soft and pleasant? Is it welcoming? Is it open? Is it scary? Is it frightening? Is it something that you are uncomfortable with? And I have a very different mindset. So my mindset is always money comes freely. I can make more money. I don't get more time. So I'm always thinking about how to maximize my time. When I'm talking to clients who deal with that mindset first, that helps us to be able to craft a plan and have a conversation around something that addresses that money mindset, understanding it in the budget and in the savings and the debt. That's fine. We can get into that next layer or how understanding money and how it can grow. But I think that strongest foundation is really built on how money comes and how it aligns with who you are, your values and your goals. Because if you are really purposeful about how you align that conversation in your mindset, then we can be more wise and more purposeful on how we create that pathway to creating the life that you want and unleashing those abilities for one. So it might sound a little woo, but I can teach you budget. I can teach you savings, but I can't teach you mindset. I can't go in there for you. I don't have that strategy. That's some internal work that you have to do, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, I agree. I've been talking to a lot of people about that it's okay. However, you might have trauma attached to money or you might have very positive things attached to money, but until you can just accept or work through that on some level, yeah, I think there is a barrier to growth for your business or yourself. I think I come across a lot of clients and small business owners that, they do the same things over and over again. And I have to say, okay, let's take a step back. Let's peel away a little bit and say, okay, why are you pricing this widget that you're selling for this? Is it because you've always done it that way? Or did you actually go out and look at the market and look at the needs, things like that? And a lot of times, and a lot of people will say, it's always been done that way. Well, okay, but let's take a look at it a little differently. Let's go ahead and take the next step. And, it's hard, as a CPA, the things that I come across when it comes to tax work and accounting work with small business owners, and I get it, I'm an entrepreneur too. It can be scary. It can be scary to put yourself out there from a financial aspect and ask for the price that you should ask for your business and not apologize for that and have that value. And you're going to have people that don't like it, and you're going to have people that are like, okay, great, I love what you have to offer.
Yeah, that's so true. And what's so interesting about that, when you develop this healthy money mindset and you start to align your beliefs and your approach and how you view money, you realize you don't have to know it all. There are people who are experts in this work. You have a financial advisor that can help you with planning. You have a tax expert. So if your focus just needs to be on how you build wealth or how you create more income or how you bring in more money, then that really helps you to focus on that saving and investing piece. You can work with someone to help you. They can help you figure out how to apply it. But the thing is, if your mindset is not positive around money, that's going to help shape your financial decisions and your behaviors more than anything. So that's why you see many people who make so much money and then lose it, or people like you said, who maybe have some level of imposter syndrome, who are not even stepping in own value and pricing themselves accordingly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that is definitely something that it's hard. You get afraid because you don't want to offend people. You don't want to set them off, but those might not be the right people you want to work with anyway. Are there any particular tools that you utilize with the mindset or steps that you help your clients work through their mindset that could get them to the next level? Anything that you love to share with them that might help others?
Yeah. So the first question, like I said, is really understanding what is their mindset around money and really be more self-aware and begin to release some of those limiting beliefs that they have around money. Like, I have people who will say, I'm just not good with money, or I'll never have enough. So then we start to challenge those beliefs with more empowered statements. So it's a more of a money empowerment conversation. So, I have more control over money. Money flows and comes to me frequently. I can make more money. And I also have the opportunity to be capable of learning how to make more money. And then working with them to set what are their financial goals. We don't always want the same thing. So looking at their short-term goals versus their long-term goals. And it may be something as simple as, I want to go on vacation in December and I want to make sure I have enough money for that, or paying off debt, building up their savings, and they're just creating and achieving some level of financial independence. So just having clear goals, and I still think SMART goals apply to that. And I think that is even in finance. So just to clarify for anyone who's listening, what is a SMART goal? Just something that is specific, that's measurable, actionable, relevant, and you have a time attached to it. So that's part of what it is that we do. And then we start going into the education. So with RBI, we're at the intersection of marketing and finance, and we have the ability to create tools and have a financial education syllabus, for lack of a better term, that then we can help them to make sure that it's in alignment with what it is that they want. You can read books, you can take courses, and you can have mentors, but understanding those nuances and how it relates to you and more personalized helps. And at the end of that time, we want them to take action and be consistent and follow up. So whether I'm working with advisors or I'm working with individuals, everyone has to take accountability for their own success. And you have to want it. Not everybody wants it and is willing to put the work in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's hard. Small business owners want to do what they want to do, and they know there's the financial piece to it, the marketing piece, the getting maybe life insurance or professional liability insurance or business insurance, or those things that kind of go with running a business, but they're not necessarily an expert in that. Well, you don't need to be an expert. You just need to, like you said, take the time to understand it, hire professionals. I get all the time too, I'm getting started, or I've been in business a year. I don't necessarily have the money to hire these professionals. And I say, I understand that, but sometimes that investment will actually help you in the long run and get you to where, you need to be.
Right. And what I also find as I've been having more of these conversations, and not for nothing, I always let the folks that I'm working with and people that I'm having financial education discussions with understand is that I've been in their physical shoes. This is not something that I'm sitting off the sideline saying, hey, you. I don't talk about things that I've not been through. So one of the things, to your point, is the money usually will show up. We'll find money for things that don't matter. We'll find money for Beyonce tickets or your favorite shoes. But you look at the numbers and say, can you make this investment for yourself for some longer term outcomes that are going to be positive and really help set you up for success? That's why that money mindset is so important, and that commitment. Because once you have that commitment, you say, oh, wait, maybe I don't need a new pair of shoes. Maybe I can now make that investment in myself and my future.
I mean, it's a cost opportunity, right? Giving up something else to get something. There is a philosophy out there that I do follow, not 100%, but I do follow, called profit first. And especially for small business owners, is paying yourself first before you pay for your operating expenses and the goals. And one of the things in that is the idea of savings. And I also get all the time, I don't make enough. You're a W-2 wage earner or even a small business owner. And I always say, if you have $1, start somewhere. Start somewhere to build that habit, and you talk about going from your financial fears to your financial freedom. Are there any, whether in your own money story or any stories that you've come across that, like, just that fear of the money and how you've seen that change for them to have financial freedom? And it is something you have to continue to work at. It's not, oh, well, this person just made, $100 million and they're doing well. Well, they still have to work at it, because there's a lot of people who win the lottery who blow their money because they don't understand how to manage or work with the emotional or the mindset side of it to protect themselves so that they can continue to have that money in their pocket, kind of a thing.
Yeah. So one of the things that I like to talk about in my entrepreneurial endeavors is fear. Fear gets in the way from so many people just living their truth, whether we're talking about money or anything else. I am afraid. So just trying to knock down those barriers to what's stopping you and putting it into a more tangible place, which has been hard, I would say, even for me, because I spent so many decades in corporate. I am very analytical in the way that I think, but I had to start to break down some of that and be more human about it.
Right. Because it's not black and white. It's not that it's got to fit in a box kind of a thing.
And it doesn't. And all of us we're bringing our own experiences with money to the conversation. We can have 10 millionaires. They have all had a very different relationship with money and how they accomplished or achieved that. So one of the things that you're talking about, fear, is starting to break down the fear, the doubt, and those limits that we impose on ourselves, and really embrace our own truth and our own journey when it comes to money. And the one thing that I'll say, I don't care if you're an entrepreneur or if you work with someone else, we have to own it. No one is coming to save you. And I know, I don't care what you think. Some people are like, well, maybe people are coming to save you. No, when you put yourself in that situation, even when someone saves you, that means you've given them the power to also take it away. So if I give you a life jacket and I'm saving you, but I take it away, you drown. So that's why I like people to think about their place in it. Even if you are a stay-at-home mom, or you're in a relationship where you don't have to worry about it, or you're from a family of wealth, or you're creating your own. Understand how money works for you. Get very intimate and understand money. Release your fear, because what's scarier? Learning to help you grow and getting better, or not knowing and then losing it all. So is it pain of same or pain of gain? Where do you want it to be? So you have to get in a place where you understand that and you release that fear. When I walked away from a very great job in corporate, the first thing that I had to address was not being afraid to choose myself and not being afraid of my ability to earn income in a world of 8.1 billion people.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, I sit in an area, there's all kinds of CPAs and larger accounting firms and other people that I've come across that do things with their helping small business owners. But people have to remember too, there's always a place for you or a niche or something that another CPA may not necessarily be able to provide, but I could provide, or I can't necessarily provide you with everything. So it's good to have other people. I get prospective clients who I'll reach out and we'll have a conversation to see if I'm a fit. And I always say to them, and some people say, oh, maybe you shouldn't do that. But I say, do your research. If you're not sure I'm your fit, talk to other CPAs, because if we build this relationship and it's not what you wanted, then in your mind, from a money perspective, oh, now I feel like I've wasted it on this person. They haven't done what I needed them to do. It's okay to challenge that. It's okay to review that. It's okay to question that. And I say for anybody that owns their own business or works for someone else and gets a paycheck, review that quarterly, semi-annually, annually. Sit down and look at your numbers, because if you do understand your money, what's coming in, what's going out, you're going to have a better ability to say, I wonder if I could do more with that. Or, oh, maybe I should shift this way. Or, no, I'm good. I'm comfortable. I think that's important too, to question that always.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I don't think that people question enough. It's just, I'm going to get my paycheck. I'm going to get it. And that's a wonderful thing. Or depending on where you are in your journey for entrepreneurship, you're just happy to get that first client. But understanding that and knowing where your money is going. And even if it's something as simple as looking at your pay stub, make sure your taxes are allocated correctly, but making sure you track your spending, understanding where your money is coming from. You know what I don't think people think about enough is if they're aware of their gross income. What does that before taxes look like versus the after taxes? Like, are you really understanding and you have a clear sense of what's available to you? Because we can work with making our money go further if we have a better understanding. And I don't like the B word, and I'm talking about budget.
Spending plan.
Spending plan. I know, I like that better. I always say the B word. They're like, what is that? But just understanding we have needs, we have wants, and understanding that sometimes they're not always going to be balanced. But if you're doing more of the wants and have more of the extras, that's going to impact you. So I like to have a conversation and understanding that not all debt is not bad debt. And I want to mention credit.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Your credit score is going to tell you everything about your financial health.
Absolutely.
I just think that people have that understanding of some of these fundamentals, no matter where you are. You don't have to know everything, but at least understand the foundational elements of it, because to truly understand and know your money is really an investment.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'll go back to the B word, the budget, in a second. But with regards to looking at your credit and your credit score, the 3 top services, I think it's once or twice a year, I can't remember if they switched it, that you can get your free credit report. Doesn't affect your credit, doesn't affect anything else, because you should be reviewing that. There could be something on there that maybe happened 20 years ago that for whatever reason it's still carrying, and that's what's affecting your credit. You know, it's okay to look at that number. And you don't want to kill yourself by looking at it all the time, because it's going to fluctuate. And like, I have to have the conversation with my boys because they look at it all the time. I'm like, listen, you're fine. You're just either out of college or in college. You have a little bit of credit, like you're doing what you need to do. But it's a guide. And if your credit score isn't great, well, why? And again, pull that credit report. Understand, are you continually signing up for credit cards? Well, that's going to affect it, because every time you do that, they check your credit. I know that stores, they push because, 10, 20% off, but that's more credit that you owe, like more money you owe back. And maybe, 10% for that first time purchase is great, but going forward, it's then just sitting there because you're not going to necessarily use it again. So you got to pay attention to that. So going back a little to the B word, to the budget, when I first started doing my podcast, and it's something I've done over my years, is saying that having a budget is good, but I always say it is not something set in stone. It's a guide. And so when somebody said maybe it's more of a spending plan, I think budgets and spending plans can be similar in that idea of what are your wants, what are your needs, where do you need to save, and you can adjust it. But again, it's part of that holding yourself accountable too. Don't be adjusting your spending plan or your budget every single time. Like, you have to work through it, get those goals, set up something to be accountable for that.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be restrictive. I mean, some people think our budget is just super restrictive, like diet. It doesn't need to be. We can work around your life choices. We can work around your choices, everything in moderation. So we just follow that same thought process when it comes to budget. It's not to restrict you. It is actually to empower you. So having those conversations is just changing even our thought about budget.
Right. Another person I was interviewing talked about the season of our life. Like, where are you at? Like right now, I've got one kid graduated college, one kid in college. So my season of my life is, yes, I'm budgeting in the sense of we know we've got this certain large expense with the college for at least the next year to 2 years left. And how do we manage that? And my husband has always been of the philosophy of not tying your money down to one thing. We didn't go and buy the larger house because we didn't want to be what he called house poor, in the sense of tying all our funds into the house. Nothing wrong with that if you so choose to do that, but that wasn't our path. And I think you have to look at that too. You have to look at today and you have to say, where do I want to be in 2 years, 5 years? Do I have a family? Do I have kids? Are they going to go to college? Are they going to go out into the real world? What is it that I'm willing to provide them at a certain point? And then do they need to now come in and provide for themselves or help out, whether it's student loans or whatever that is?
That is so critically important. And if you go back your conversation, your first question around what is money, what are we wanting to do? So if I think about not being house poor or not having an extensive amount of debt, when I made my decision, for me, it was about freedom. So there are many years, especially that season of life, raising children, that I didn't do, that I started to do once they got older. But I always thought about financial freedom. For me, prioritizing the value of not ever wanting to be so controlled or so locked into a job that if the company made the decision to eliminate the role, or I made the decision, understanding my relationship with money and understanding my savings plan was always a pathway to freedom so that I didn't feel locked in. And like you said, there's nothing wrong. We all want different things. But if you tie what it is that you want to how you spend, that will tell you everything.
Yeah, I think that's very important. One of the things, I know you're a mentor, you're a leader, you're really involved in the community, which I think is great. I think that's also something as entrepreneurs is not just focusing on our business, but the more you can get connected with others, the networking, the mentoring. So how do you, as a mentor or leader, empower your entrepreneurs or people to get into the entrepreneur world if you see that there is this possibility that, maybe I could take this hobby or consulting or whatever to the next level? How do you, as that mentor, guide them and help them in that, as it also with the financial empowerment for that too?
Yeah, so I would say I understand too that entrepreneurship is not for everyone. And as a person who spent much of my career in a corporate environment, when people come to me and they ask the question, because I am a serial entrepreneur and I own several businesses, one thing that I always say is this might not be for everyone. So really understanding if this is something that you're willing to do. Can you balance it with your work? I was a side hustle queen for many years. I had side hustles in finance. We call them outside business activities, but really understanding their why. So that's important to me, is to have that conversation with individuals, understanding their why, understanding their risk tolerance. That's important too.
Huge.
Could I make this decision when my children got older versus when they were younger? But really having an understanding of what their goals. I really like to align the individual's goals when I'm mentoring or having that conversation. And even as a mentee, I appreciate when people align with what it is that I want and help me, not give me the answers, because I don't know about you, but when someone gives you the answers, you may not be invested in it as much as you are co-creating what that path is going to look like.
Right. And those answers might work for them, but not necessarily for you. And I think when it comes to financial empowerment and literacy and having them conversations, yes, there are basic things about finances. What is your income? What is your expenses? Can you save anything? What are the savings tools? There are the basics. But from there, you have to say, okay, I know that I get X amount of dollars coming in every month and that I spend X amount of dollars in my expenses. Can I review my expenses based off of whatever my business is, whatever I'm doing personally? And do I need to adjust them? I mean, I think that's important too, whether it's once a month, once a quarter, twice a year, once a year, those things should be reviewed because that's important too. And if you have someone working with you in your accounting or tax and they send you messages of, hey, pay attention to this, you should really pay attention to those things.
Yeah, pay attention, learn from the voice of experience, and understanding that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. There are some fundamental foundational elements that are timeless. Things that, like, are you prepared to withstand not potentially earning any revenue or not having any profit for a certain number of years? I'm at a point in my life where I need to fail fast. So if something doesn't work, I'm okay and comfortable with failing fast because I'm a bit older as an entrepreneur. So I wanted to make sure I'm not that old for anybody listening, but old
No,
enough.
she's not. We're beautiful and we're young. We are beautiful and we're young. That's right. We are aging like fine wine.
That's right. But yeah, but just having that conversation and understanding that, I have a team of advisors, and I always encourage to, like, you have mentors, you have people who have done this before, and while your path may be different, there is something to be said about listening and learning from the voices of experience. So whether I'm a mentor or a mentee, I think it's important to use your questions, ask questions, but
Absolutely.
also aligns with who you are. There are some things that I've heard from individuals that don't necessarily align with me and my why. So if I think about why I'm doing this first, then I can apply it very differently.
Yes, there are things out there that can help you with your financial side of things and getting your books in order, getting your personal finances in order. And I think you and I think the same way, but it doesn't have to be set in stone. You can learn about profit first, or there's the envelope method out there for saving. And there's nothing wrong with those processes, but you have to also take stock and going, okay, this works for this person. And if I follow it to a T, a lot of times, like you said, that mindset with money is it doesn't work for me. Well, maybe you need to know that it is working, but you need to adjust it to what works for you. And that's okay too. Having that grace, having the ability to say to yourself, I can do this because it's helping me not spend all my money, but I have to adjust it to my needs and how I do that. And again, there's nothing wrong with those different methods of spending and saving, but they're not necessarily set in stone. There isn't just one way to run a business and succeed financially.
It's not. And I appreciate that you're highlighting that, because people need to understand that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach to how we make the money, to how we save it, but just have a plan. I like the 50-30-20 rule. So with that, I spent many of my years putting 50% of what we made towards our bills, and then 30% to what we loved, and then 20% to savings, investments, and debt. But no matter what you choose, have a plan. I just can't stress enough that we need to just make sure that we have a plan, because lives. And what was the quote? Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. We don't want to be punched in the face. Nobody wants to be punched in the face. But understanding that you have to have a plan and be prepared for those situations, whether they're in our control or outside of our control. Be able to weather those financial storms that life brings us, because no matter how much we plan, there are always going to be things that disrupt our plans that are outside of our control.
Absolutely.
That's been, even my experience as an entrepreneur over the years, always having that backup with having a full-time job, to now making sure that I am staying true to what it is that started.
This has been wonderful. Is there any other tips or insights for entrepreneurs, or just for personal finance, or a combination of both, that you think is really important for my listeners to learn?
Ask for what you need. And what I say, I think that applies to life. And when it comes to personal finance, we don't always know what we don't know.
Right. Very true.
So asking for what you need. I don't know, but I would like to know. Or I need this guidance on this thing and I need it. And I think that's a good application to whether you are thinking through the lens of finance. I think important if you're thinking through the lens of an entrepreneur. And oftentimes we don't give ourselves permission to ask for what we need and to be vulnerable enough to know that we don't know everything, nor do we need.
Right. I think that's very important. And I think that's where this whole idea about, do you know your money, and talking about your money really comes to that point. Because if we don't talk about it, then we're not going to know, do we need something? Do we need to look at it differently? That kind of thing. Renée, this has been awesome. Where can people reach out or find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Dr. Renée Baker. I always have on hot pink. I have it on now. You can't see, but I do. And across all social media handles, I'm at It's Renée Baker. My company website is the RBI Group. So that's TheRBIGROUP. And my personal website is reneebaker.com. So so those are the places. I am at the intersection of marketing and finance. And I am just happy to have these conversations and encourage people to have more conversation about money.
Absolutely. And I'll make sure all of those links and all of that information is in our podcast notes for the episode. And Renee, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for all you do to get the word out and for being the financial maven, which is such an amazing name, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I get a lot of good talks on that one. So thank you. Follow, like, and subscribe to Your Financial Maven wherever you listen to your podcasts. And make sure that you leave your money stories or questions for me at www.yourfinancialmavenpodcast.com. I cannot wait to hear what you have to say about money. The purpose of this podcast is to provide general information on the subjects discussed. It is for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. It is not meant to resolve your specific financial needs or situations. Please consult with your CPA, tax, or financial professionals. Your Financial Maven is hosted and produced by Samantha M. Besnoff, CPA, and Your Financial Maven, LLC. Editing is done by Chris Zarnock of KM Zen Creative. Music is written, composed, and performed by Daniel Shore.